All right, welcome everybody. My name is Fausto from Cybertrain University. Welcome back for on a podcast. I got a really featured guest, one of my favorite guests to have on here. I know him for a while in industry. We got Matt from Top Gun Options. I'm so excited to have you on. Matt is awesome. First time on the
What's up,
show. We're
brother?
gonna have a lot to cover. What have you been up to, buddy?
Living the dream, my friend. How about you?
Listen, if I know where you're down in Florida, I'm over here in New York. You're shooting down planes and stuff. Well, not shooting down, hanging out, flying around. But
Yeah.
nice weather here. Just like I said, a lot of good things are going on with the market. A lot of earnings came out. We got a big election coming up. A lot of stuff happening, and definitely wanted to get your feedback. I think everybody's interested. I always want to get an expert in here who I feel is always the best in options. And that's something like you've been doing for a long time, and that's key. So what have you been up to?
Oh man, trading, waiting for the Fed announcement here. Flying our fighter jet out in Aspen. Flying donors in our jet, trying to raise money for our foundation. And yeah, man, just enjoying the summer. Enjoying that the Panthers won the Stanley Cup. Last month, or I think it was, and turning Florida into the hockey capital of the world, which is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know what that feels like because I live in New York. We haven't won a championship in like 30 years. And
Yeah,
fortunately,
man.
I'm a Jet fan, so you can imagine.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. But I feel a little confident this year. We'll see what happens,
Yeah.
as long as he doesn't blow his knee out again, whatever.
Oh my
But
God, man.
listen, it's a trade, right? Listen, that's what we do. We're traders, and stuff like that happens.
Did you buy Aaron Rodgers puts last year? I mean, if we could, were you long, or you should have bought
Did they
some
do
puts?
that? Do they do that? Like, even in the election, right? Do they trade an option, or is there like an ETF on it, something like that?
Out in Vegas, you can bet or trade on anything, man. So I guarantee you, where there's a potential, where there's two people who disagree, I guarantee you, out in Vegas, we could potentially trade or hedge that. I guarantee.
We could hedge that. We could hedge that.
Mhm.
But reason why I love to have people on like you, gurus like you. I mean, how long have you been doing this for, actually?
Geez, man, I'm gonna date myself. 1991, when I reported to Naval Air Station Key West as a young, just finished college down here in Florida, and that was my first duty station. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what, I'm not going to get him. I'm not staying in the Navy forever. There's no way in hell I'm going to be a 4-star admiral or something crazy. So I was already starting to worry about, retirement. I'm like, you know what, let me just start, investing, right? And I remember sending like $25 or like $50, which was a lot of money for me as a 21-year-old ensign, to the USAA Aggressive Growth Mutual Fund, right?
Okay.
Thinking of Warren Buffett or something like that. And then, my girlfriend at the time, who became my beautiful bride, I think she kept Ann Taylor in business, and I used my American Express card. And I remember thinking, because I get my USAA statement, I'm like, what are all these fees? I'm like, wait a minute, I'm paying somebody to pick stocks for me. I'm like, wait a minute, Ann Taylor's a stock and American Express is a stock. So I literally, that was my kind of in the door to stocks, was just, trading what I knew. So that was 1991. And then on active duty, flying fighter jets for the United States Navy, instead of sitting in the ready room, drinking coffee with my boots on the table, which I did anyway, I'm reading the Wall Street Journal. I'm like, this is pretty cool. So I can, if I'm right, I can make money, just, pajama money, man, just hanging out, buying and selling stocks. And then kind of dabbled, in the late 90s, like you and I both did, when I was out in Orange County, California, the day trading capital of the world, man. These, they had these shops that, were kind of open. So short story long, around that time, in the ready room of my fighter squadron at Miramar, one of my buddies was looking over my shoulder at the computer. He's like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trading, I'm brilliant. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, well, that looks cool. You own a bunch of stocks, you trade options too, right? I'm like, get away from me, devil man. Options are creepy and dangerous. And he's like, dude, what are you, stupid? He was after he graduated from college, he was a CFP for like 2 years. And he's like, dude, what are you doing, man? Why aren't you trading options? So he took me, it was the best lunch of my life. He took me to the golf course, to grab some lunch, and I paid for lunch, which is a shocker, because he told me about covered calls and stuff. And I was like, I was blown away, man. I'm like, what? I didn't even know this stuff existed. So short story long, I, started trading options around 99-ish, 98, 99-ish.
Okay.
Never looked back, man. And, unfortunately, TopGunOptions, the company that I own and run right now, was started because of a tragedy. On the morning of September 11th, I was packing for my first trip as a pilot for American Airlines.
Wow.
And,
Yeah.
I was in Fort Worth. I won the lottery, man. Winning the lottery was getting off active duty as a fighter pilot and getting hired in a reserve squadron. So
Wow. Okay.
fly jets on the weekend, man, and being a rich airline pilot. So I
Okay.
won the lottery, and my wife came in and said, "You better come look at the TV. Somebody hit the World Trade Center with an airplane." And I'm like, I'm a busy woman, bad weather and a small airplane. And she just kind of gave me a look. So I went out there and I saw what you saw, big, beautiful day, blue sky in New York City, and then that huge smoking hole. And as I'm standing there going through my mental aviation checklist of how that could have happened, next plane hits. So I immediately knew we were under attack. So I raced out to Naval Air Station Fort Worth just as they closed it and went to a combat posture. And me and another F-18 buddy made it out to the squadron, and we called down to the maintenance department and said, "Hey, Chief, get 2 jets fully fueled and ready to go." And then we ran next door. There was an F-16 squadron, and those guys were tied into NORAD, right? The Air Force, they're rich and they got all these assets.
Right.
There was 4 of those guys that made it out. So we're in the command post of this F-16 squadron planning to get airborne, and the Pentagon gets hit on the TV behind us. I'm like, holy shit, man. Wow. So they got airborne first, and Gruff, my wingman and I, Gruff, we're at the end of the runway, fully armed, engines turning, ready to get airborne. But by the time, those guys ran out of gas, just about every airliner had landed. So we didn't launch. But bring this up because a couple days after the attacks, I get a photocopied letter from American Airlines HR that says, "Hey, you're furloughed," which is, like airline speak for laid off.
Right.
So, man, I gave myself half a day to feel sorry for myself, like lost my job, lost my pension, healthcare, and everything. But I'm looking at TV of people at ground zero looking for their dad or their, wife, or I'm like, dude, get over yourself, man, get up. And so up until that point, trading had been a hobby. I just kind of done it for fun and make some extra cash. Now I had to do it for real to pay the mortgage. So Fausto, I just started applying everything I learned flying a fighter to my trading, because when you think about it, trading's a form of combat. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to get their ass kicked. Which one do you want to be? So why wouldn't you have a trade plan? Why wouldn't you, before you even get into a trade, know when you're going to get out for minimum loss or maximum profit? So I did all that stuff, and I ended up popping up on the radar of one of the largest volatility options trading firms in the world, headquartered in the CBOT up in Chicago.
Okay.
And I felt like Valentine. I felt like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. This guy off the street going to this $2.5 billion vol arb firm as the managing director of strategy, and they said, "Just do what you do." And I'm like, all right, well, this is all I do. And it was pretty cool to be up there with, quote, the smart money. And as I got into the rooms and got to hang out with some folks, I figured out that sometimes the smart money ain't necessarily that smart, or in fact, can be the smart money too, right?
Right.
It was interesting. I had a blast when I was there. I helped build a hedge fund. I helped build the retail brokerage Options House, if you remember Options House back in the day. It got
Who bought them out again, or did somebody buy them out?
They got squeezed with Trade Monster, E-Trade, and swallowed up.
Part of that whole crew.
Exactly, part of all the brokers swallowing. When I was up there, I did due diligence on Thinkorswim and Investools and Optionetics and just all that cool stuff. And then while I was up there, they said, "Hey, build us a media company." So since I hadn't done that in my life, I built what was called the Options News Network. So we used to shoot on the floor of the CBOT and the CBO, telling retail traders, we were essentially the CNBC for options. It was cool. Hey, here's what's going on, unusual options activity over in this pit or over here. And it was really cool. So I had a blast in Chicago, but, no offense to my Chicago friends, I'm a beach guy. I need sand and sun, and walking from Union Station to the Board of Trade in February is a survival situation.
Yeah, I know.
So,
That's a pretty big floor too. I was down there. I know they do tours down there, but I mean, I don't know what the hell they're gonna do with it. Maybe you could have your wedding down there, do like bar mitzvahs or something. But other than that, so there's one little section. Everyone's like on top of each other.
isn't it weird?
Yeah,
It's
so
eerie.
primitive.
It is. It's eerie that there's still a little bit of open outcry going on down there. People
They
yelling
can't let
at
it
each
go.
other.
It's like, dude, it's move on.
It's funny you bring that up, man, because we actually when I showed up at that firm, they had some seats and they had a floor operation. And, finally we pulled and these were former football players from Northwestern and stuff.
Yeah.
These pit traders, we brought them upstairs into the air conditioning, and the click of the mouse is all you kind of heard. Right.
Right.
And most of these guys couldn't hack it. So I actually came up with an idea. We ended up piping. They had speakers at their desk. We actually ended up piping in the sound of the pits to these guys to make them kind of feel a little bit more at home.
Right.
They were creeped out. Some of them didn't make the transition, man, off the floor to upstairs.
Well,
but
it's kind of
cool
rough on that floor. People don't realize that, like, even like the New York Stock Exchange, it all changed way after 9/11 too, because like, everything became electronic. Like
exactly.
I remember doing it since '95. I was one of the original day traders here in New York, and this was like the financial capital of the world for day traders. So back then, it's like they had to evolve. I mean, they had to like follow NASDAQ. I mean, NASDAQ was always like, NASDAQ was like, you're speculative and this and that, but that's where the most volatility was in the option market.
Correct.
But yeah, that's how you kind of involve. But yeah, some people. Like I tell everyone, when you watch CNBC right now, you watch the floor of the exchange. There's nobody there anymore.
No,
it's just
it's for show.
Yeah, I mean that's why CNBC has their
they can have a studio there. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they don't have room for that. I mean, back then I think it was like, I don't know, like 5-10 million to buy a seat on that floor, and they didn't even make any money.
Correct.
Just have a seat there just to see what's going on. That's what we kind of teach everybody now. Like you and I, that's what we do. Is that with today's technology, like they brought that seat to you now.
Correct.
So I love doing it. But so how did the company get started? How did you get Top Gun Options up and running? Like what made you get going? Because that's what a lot of people like to see. Because what it is, you've been doing this as long as I have, and this is my biggest issue that I have. There's a lot of bad actors out there. Oh yeah. That try to do schools and this and that, and they all think like, who do you trust? How do you know what? Or the person trying to make money, like a classes, you're such a great trader. Why do you teach and stuff like that?
Exactly.
I always got to deal with that. And I mean, I know how to answer that.
Exactly.
But listen, this is about you. Like, what is your story behind that?
Yeah, well, so like I said, living up in Chicago 3-4 years was right around the point where they're like, if you stay here, you're here for life. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. So my wife's from Boca Raton, God's waiting room. So I'm like, you know what? I can do this on my own, and let's go be someplace warm. So we moved down here, and I started Top Gun Options. And I love that you brought that up because, I was an instructor pilot in the F-18. There was nothing that made me happier than instructing people and helping people go from a nugget, an unpolished nugget, to a steely-eyed F-18 fighter pilot. It made me feel good and professionally made me smile. So I'm like, you know what? Let me teach others to trade. And like I said, using that kind of combat mentality. And I'm glad you brought that up because there is a lot of snake oil or whatever you want to call it. Like, hey, I can guarantee you, I'll teach you how to turn $1 into $1 million. I mean, that stuff just makes my skin crawl.
I got to deal with that.
I manage my own money, right? So, Top Gun Options, people get to log in, and I call it like you're walking on the floor of the SIBO up to the pit, and you're getting to eavesdrop on what I'm doing, right? So in my live trade briefs, I just sit here and I talk and I brief. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Whatever you do on your side of the computer and your bunny slippers and your cup of coffee is your own business. But let me show you how I fly and fight my airplane. Right. So in the military, we call it demo do. We're going to sit in a brief. I'm going to brief you on how to do a loop. We're going to get airborne in a 2-seat fighter jet. I'm going to do the loop, and then I'm going to give you the flight controls. So demo do. That's how you learn, man. That's how we learn. So that's what I do. And do, that's why I started Top Gun Options, is because I'd be doing this stuff anyway. I'd be sitting here trading and having fun and talking to myself. So I'm like, why don't I just open a damn webinar room and show people what I'm doing?
All right.
Yeah. And one of my, one of my biggest career successes in this was the COVID crash. So I had a deep throat, so to speak, in the White House. A buddy of mine was a military aide. We call them loops. You ever see the guys with like the big, cool things hanging off their uniforms? We call them loops.
Right, right.
So in December and early January, he's like, bro, a virus escaped from the only level 4 biological warfare facility in China, in a city called Wuhan. It's coming here. We're going to freak the hell out. I'm like, what? That's not what I'm hearing.
Right,
as a matter of fact, 4 senators just left a top secret skiff, went to the microphones and said, everything's fine, remain calm.
Yeah, right.
Nothing's going to happen.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, they got on their phones, it turns out later, after the investigations. They called their brokers, they called their best friends, and they told everybody to get out. But they lied to us. So I engaged in what I called outsider trading. I told everybody at TopGunOptions on videos. I got booted from a bunch of social media accounts, but Fausto, in three and a half weeks, we made $2.5 million trading. Because you remember the smart money? You remember like Ackman and Kyle Bass? One of them was crying on CNBC one morning, like, we need to close the markets and like for a couple of weeks. Yeah. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No. I'm on the other side of your bullish trades there, Mr. Smart Money Guy.
Yeah.
These markets stay open.
Right.
The whole way down, these smart money guys were what? Oh, this is the bottom. I'd be a buyer here. Smash.
Dude, they got crushed.
I have a tweet that Donald Trump deleted. It's in my book, COVID Crash. Stocks are looking good here. I'd be a buyer of stocks. The next day, the Dow went down like 3,000 points. It was obscene. So my biggest career victory and career call was the COVID crash. And then my second biggest career victory was, what was it, March 22nd. It was the Thursday morning jobs report. I thought it looked like Rick Santelli was going to have a heart attack. It was 6 million. That was the print. 6 million unemployed Americans. Wow. I was getting ready to jump on my live trade brief, and I'm getting ready to enter like $1 million bearish trade.
Wow. And so what did you short? Would you do like the S&P, or you did like
SPX? I was trading the S&P 500. It was like shooting fish in a barrel, man.
Right.
Opening bell, buy puts on the S&P 500, and within 10 minutes, it's just obscene amount of money right out. But so that Thursday morning on that jobs report number, I'm getting ready to hit enter on that like $1 million bearish trade. Jerome Powell flew over the market and dropped the biggest financial nuke known to man. Wow. I deleted that bearish trade and I entered one of the most bullish trades. And the market, knock on wood, has almost never looked back since he did that. And, even what's his name? Double Line Capital. The guy that runs Double Line Capital, when Jerome Powell did that, a month later in April, as the market was rallying, he's like, oh, this is ridiculous. The market's going to retest those March lows. And he got destroyed on the way up. So, quick bottom line, folks, don't ever, the smart money ain't necessarily smart. They put their pants on or their skirts on the same way we do, man. And they get things wrong too. But the COVID crash was just an absolute, it was just comical at these grown men literally crying on TV that the market needed to shut down. I'm like, if markets need to close, they're not markets. That ain't capitalism.
No, it's markets. Not. The only time they closed the market is when we had, Hurricane Sandy, or like 9/11. Like it, obviously people couldn't go to work, but that was the only reason why, because they couldn't run the systems, but now they run them off site. But they can't shut the system because it's a global thing. You can't do that. But it's so crazy when you really think about COVID. People we look at it like the death. We look at it like inflation that we're having and all that stuff. But like for us, I always tell everybody, Matt, and I said, listen, unfortunately, catastrophes make opportunities for us. So you can't take things personal. You can't, because you're going to lose. There's a lot of people here on my social media that are watching live, like on Instagram and TikTok and X and all that. And I read some of the comments and I'm like, guys, don't that they get political. You're like I did one on Tesla, and everyone's like, "Oh, I hope Elon lose all his money. He's a Trump fan." I'm like, dude, I'm on your side. Don't look at it this way. There's opportunities, just make money. I'm just trying to show you, don't make the mistake that you get caught your pants down and get caught in the bag, because, like you said, there's going to be another catastrophe. What happens to World War III? You know what I mean? Or there's listen, like who knew that we would have a virus? I mean, that was probably like 1 of a billion odds in Vegas, but it's going to happen. And it happens usually every 8 years. I think we have like some type of a catastrophe, I would say. But, the housing crisis. I mean, I did really well on that. That was pretty great.
Oh yeah.
But they're there all the time. But for you, I mean, you being an educator for a while, but then and you're telling me all the the glories and the fears. But there's people listening here that want to listen to you as a mentor. What are you finding that's everyone's biggest challenge? Like, what are the mistakes that they're making that you have to kind of make them overcome to not be like, hey, I'm on your side?
Real quick, I want to talk about what you just alluded to, folks. In the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko says to Bud Fox, if you want a friend, get a dog, right? So I tell people sometimes I'm bipolar when I'm trading. Sometimes I do a hold your nose trade or something like that. Like, hey, I feel a certain way about this, but folks, I want to make money, right? So there are opportunities, as you alluded to, Fausto. God forbid, Iran and Israel, it gets worse. Right. Let me give you a little bit of a hint. It will. So oil's going to, what's the market going to do not if oil hits 100, 150, 200 bucks a barrel, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So again, you can panic. Yeah, exactly. You can panic, you can freak out and do all sorts of stuff, or you can do all those things and potentially make money. So, watch the Showtime series Billions, folks. I mean, it's that really gives you an idea of how Wall Street can be. So there's opportunities everywhere, good and quote bad, to potentially make money. But to your point, you're right, Fausto. I've been training folks to trade for a long time. The number one problem that I see is, and I'll throw out my percentage. I'd love to get your take. 90% of trading is emotional.
It is.
Right? So these retail folks, oh, this Apple trade's going against me. Apple, doesn't hate me. This trade's going to come back. Folks, Apple would steamroll over your house if it could. It doesn't care. If you think people, you have got to trade with a plan. So our motto here at TopGunOptions is discipline plus risk management equals superior execution. That's why, Fausto, we have a 7-step trade plan. I do not squeeze the trigger on a trade with real capital unless I know exactly when I'm getting out for minimum loss or maximum profit. And when I hit that, I do it, right? Because there's airplanes a mile short of runways and guys plastered on the side of a mountain who didn't fly the plan. Right. They deviated from it, right? Now, you're the pilot. I call it the tick, the trader in command, but it's the pilot in command of an aircraft. So I have a manual sitting right over there, my old F-18 flight manual. It's this thick, but the first page of every Navy flight manual says something like this. It says, nothing in this book takes the place of good headwork and judgment by the pilot in command. Translation, you can deviate from these procedures, but if you screw up, we're going to kill you. And if you succeed, maybe we'll give you a medal. So here's what I'm saying at. When you have a trade plan, it's something to deviate from. If a trade hits your out target, either for profit or loss, and as the tick, the trader in command go, you know what? I did write that 3 weeks ago. I'm going to put the cigar in my mouth and my scarf out the cockpit. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. At least you made that conscious decision. You're not sitting there going, holy crap, this trade's going against me. I said I'd get out, but no. So in my 3 decades of all this stuff, man, it is the lack of discipline and letting their emotions take them to some place they shouldn't be. When I was up in Chicago, man, sometime, after the first month or two of doing this, people learn not to do it. Somebody would kick open my office door and be like, Whiz. I'm like, is anybody dead? And they're like, what? I'm like, is anybody dead? They're like, no, we're just having a problem getting quotes from the Philex to the floor. I'm like, relax. It can always be worse. You have a losing trade, you're going to get to go home at the end of the night. So,
Right.
along that
losing trade.
Yeah. Oh, and along with that, my SOPs, I teach my members to have an SOP, standard operating procedure. For example, on a credit spread, I don't want to risk more than 5% of my total portfolio on that one trade. Why? That's me after 30 years of doing it. But I tell people, before you press fire on that trade, when you look at the max potential loss, if that's an amount of money where you go, oh my God, I better not lose that. Why are you doing the trade? I'm a fighter pilot. I'm an options trader. I'm Eeyore. I expect the bad to happen. I plan for it.
Right.
So when it doesn't happen, I'm pleasantly surprised and happy. You should be, the max risk in every trade should be an amount of money that you look at and go, it would suck. It's not going to kill me, but it would suck. If it's, holy crap, I'm going to lay awake at night staring at the ceiling. What are you doing, man?
Shouldn't be in a position.
That's exactly right.
Shouldn't be in a position.
Yeah. We step 3 of our trade plan is what I call commit criteria. You need 3. It's your elevator pitch, right? As a salesman in an elevator, you need to hit me right between the eyes with 3 to 5 sentences of why you're in this trade, why you are committing capital to it. That's another one that I hit folks with. I trade too. I'm in this trade. Why?
Why?
I like Apple. Fail. Give me 3 to 5 sentences that after you get done giving me your 3 to 5 sentences, I should look at you and go, I can't believe I'm not in that trade.
Right.
And at any time during the life of the trade, 1 or 2 of those sentences is wrong. Why are you in it?
Why are you in it?
I have people like, go back and read your commit criteria. What were the 3 to 5 sentences why you got into this trade? Well, 4 of those sentences aren't valid anymore. What are you doing, man? The jet's on fire. It says eject. What are you doing at this point? So it really is the discipline, Fausto. It's people way too emotional in trading and waking up in the morning and saying, I need to make money. And when you come from a place of need or want, now we're getting a little spiritual or psychedelic assisted therapy, but come from a place of gratitude. You woke up this morning, man. You're on a podcast with Fausto and Whiz. You have a cup of coffee. You're on the freaking internet, man. And you have some amount of capital in an account to trade. Start with a place of, you know what? Life ain't too shabby right now, man. I could be in sub-Saharan Africa looking for food. So start from a place of gratitude. Start with a trade plan. Don't get emotional, and it'll set you up for more success than doing the exact opposite of those things.
So how is somebody break themselves in a little bit? Because like for me, we interview everybody before I train them, because I tell them, so listen, not a lot of people don't qualify to trade, and that's okay. That's fine. I mean, you'd rather somebody like us confront you and just tell you the facts.
Amen.
Listen, I look at it as like, I'm not a doctor, but I try to run like a doctor's office. And I'm like, I look at you and I said, listen, I can get paid from the insurance company regardless. But at the end of the day, I'm going to put myself at liable that I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm not doing this guy a favor. And if he gets hurt, it's going to come back to me. You know what I mean? So better off not teach you at all. But there are people out there that are bad actors that would do something that's stupid. But in your aspect, I mean, what is your criteria of telling somebody like emotional wise? Because you're right. Like I tell everybody, 70% of the way we all trade is exactly the same. 30% is just a different market. If it's options, if it's crypto, if it's day trade, stock trade. So 70% is emotional and psychological. And I think you can learn that from anyone. You just got to find someone who's good at it, and kind of get used to it. But like, how do you filter someone out and tell them the truth?
So I love the interview thing. So I do try and screen my folks, but I also give them a little bit of my flight instructor talk. So if you tried to read a book on flying the F-18 and ran out and put yourself in a Hornet, you might be able to taxi and get airborne. You'll be dead in 5 minutes, right? So in between reading the book or getting a brief on flying the F-18 and the actual aircraft is the simulator. Right. And these simulators today, dude, you wouldn't believe the fidelity. I mean, I'll join up on a guy in a simulator. His mask is off. You can see the guy's like mustache. I mean, it's insane. The graphics and you can It's so funny, man. In my F-18 career, I think I carried 15 weapons. I learned that the F-18 can carry 85. I'm like, I
Wow.
didn't know we could drop mines, like we could mine a harbor. So once a quarter, we'd go to the simulator building and get our mine training in the simulator. So I tell any new investor, whether it's or Thinkorswim or I trade with E-Trade, you need to paper trade or virtual trade. And people always ask me, how long? I say, I don't know. You have to know.
Right.
Some people can paper trade and do a couple options trades in a week or 2 weeks and go, you know what? I kind of get this. Other people take a month. I don't know. Like we talked about earlier, you're the tick. You're the trader in command. Fausto, before I went flying in a Hornet, I read the maintenance book on everything that's been done to the airplane, and the last
Right.
page has a place for my signature, the date, and my rank. I own that airplane for that next hour, 2-3 hours.
Right.
You sign for your portfolio. You are the trader in command of your portfolio. So I love what the interviews and talking to folks. I do something similar, but I also tell them you have to go paper trade. Do not rush out to the F-18 and try and start it up and get airborne. You're going to crash and die. I guarantee it.
Right.
So we strongly recommend that folks paper trade. And as well as I do, especially as a football fan, there are some players who do what? They get off after their set of downs and they go over to the stationary bike. They don't want to freeze up. They don't want to. They get over there and they keep the heart rate up. Yeah, it's exactly right. People, they're moving. They stay in it. Same thing with paper trading. I tell people who, if they're trading with real capital and they get kicked in the gut a little bit, go back to the simulator building, man. Go take a little bit of a break, but keep the muscle memory going. Keep the synapses firing and keep at it, but just maybe take a little off the table at that point. So I strongly recommend paper trading too.
Yeah, I recommend paper trading, but more or less just understand the platform, like whatever. But like I always tell them, like, to me, paper trading eventually it's not real. You know what I mean? So I just say, just buy a share of the stock. And they're like, well, what's that going to accomplish? Because you know what? Then the system's actually working. Then you get statements. Listen, back then when we had to practice with one share, we had to pay $25 a
commission. Exactly.
Now you're paying zero. So like, just buy one share, or like, like an option, just buy one contract. See what it's like. You get the butterflies out of you. But like, because I had a student. Well, he's a new student of mine. Join us. And like, how long you been paper trading? Oh, I've been doing it for about 6 months. I'm like, 6 months?
Wow.
Who told you? Oh, the guy before said, you're not making money in paper trading. Dude, you're not paper trading. You're playing a video game, and you're like,
great point.
Trade one share. And he's like, and he freaked out. He's like, I said, hit the damn button already. he's like, I did it. I said, how did that feel? He goes, I think I feel a little better. He's like good, I love it. And then obviously you build it up. But yeah, you can't paper trade too long. It's gonna, it's not real. Just trade small shares, and then if you see you're consistent.
Well, and that's, I think you nailed it. I think that's a good process. Is you do your training, you do a little paper trading to understand the cockpit layout, like you alluded to. Like, here's how the order ticket looks like. Here's everything, and then do one contract, one options contract, folks. That's a great point, Fausto. Is put a little skin in the game. Because a lot of the paper trading platforms, the P&L doesn't work and all sorts of stuff like that. But put a little skin in the game. But, Fausto and I age ourselves here. Obviously, we were monster commissions back in the day. And
we made money then. That's what I'm trying to tell everyone. We actually made money. And we had to pay now I teach people how to get level 4, level 3, book. We had to pay $1,000 a month. Now it costs $15. And you're seeing where 70% of the orders are. Like, why would you not want that?
Exactly.
Like I just did it. We did a thing in class. Like, we had some crypto traders too, and there was a huge order. There was like 400 bitcoins are going to be sold at 70,000, and people were like, how do you see that? And they're like, for $15. I said, how do you see that? I said, for $15. Like, what do you mean 15? That's what it costs. $15. You have a problem with that? He goes, yeah, but I get it for free from my broker. I'm like, let me tell you something. The only thing that's free, and all you listeners better listen, is the cheese in a mouse trap, and it didn't work too well for the mouse. All right. So,
it's I feel bad for people, man. The Robin Hoods or the whatever. I'm like, if you're not paying a commission, you're not the customer.
You're not. It's a catch. Like people like they don't get it. And
Yeah.
and all I ask them is this. All right, do yourself a favor. This is what I ask you. Just everyone listen, just do yourself a favor. When you get off this podcast, call your broker and ask them, I have a question. How do you guys make money? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, why? I mean, like, you're not charging me commission. So how do you make money? And then what you got to do is this. Look at the back of your account statements. And this is what me and Whiz did. It's called payment for order flow. Read the back of your statements. It's public information. Your brokerage firm is selling your order to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
And they're getting paid under the table. That's how we made our money back then. So sometimes, even though we trade our own fund, but eventually, on the easy part of it, we traded order flow money. But
well, Ken, the customer out of Robinhood is Ken Griffin or Stevie Cohen, folks. It ain't you with your no commissions, man. It's
no commissions. Like, give me a break. Actually, I just saw a movie the other day because I did a class. We had a big run in GameStop because the whole Roaring Kitty thing took off. Yeah. And he did it, and he started running the thing. He started making big news, and all of a sudden, like my sons kept saying, "Dad, you gotta watch the movie. You gotta watch that movie." With GameStop. Yeah. And I tell everyone, like, listen, like if you ever want to watch, he just like was just telling you, like, Wall Street, that great movie. Watch a lot of these movies. My favorite movie actually of all time is probably The Big Short. I mean, that actually, you got to watch like 3 times to understand it.
To get it,
understand the financial crisis. But like, I mean, like you watch something like that and you see the reality, how people get caught screwed holding the bag. And a lot of people that were in that movie just did not know how to trade. They would just listen to some guy, and whatever. And listen, we're not those people, too, for everyone out there. I had one guy, you kind of challenged me on my social media. He's like, "Are you another Roaring Kitty?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm on your team. I'm just trying to show you, just don't get caught holding the bag from these people on Wall Street." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, and eventually they can come along. But that's my question to ask you. 2 things. And I want, because I know we're running out of time here. I know I want to show people your style a little bit and how to find out a little about you, Matt, and stuff like that. But 2 things. First of all, what is your favorite book? If you had someone to tell somebody, or favorite movie, what would you tell them?
Oh my God.
Educate them.
Oh, for trading?
Yeah, for trading. Like, listen, there's so much that.
Dude, I think you nailed it. The big, I love The Big Short. Wolf of Wall Street's just kind of funny. Boiler Room is pretty good to see. I wouldn't go with a movie. I would go with Billions. I mean, Showtime, Bobby Axelrod, man. They lost me after season 4 or whatever. But if you want to see, no kidding, how like a proprietary trading firm works, you'd be amazed. Billions is, I mean, they have real Wall Street guys making cameo appearances as themselves in that series. So I'd go with Billions.
Billy, I didn't watch that. That's a series?
Oh my God, dude. You have got to watch Billions.
Really?
You will be blown away.
Wow.
You'll probably pitch out like me at season 4 and you'll see why. You will be blown away. It reminded me.
Netflix series, something like that.
It's on Showtime. Yeah.
It's on Showtime.
Yeah. You got to watch it and give me your debrief, because I'd be interested to see your take on it. You'll binge watch it, dude. I guarantee you.
I will love it. I will love it. And now my next question is, if you had dinner, if you had that opportunity, dead or alive, knowing what you know now, who would that be with?
General Ulysses S. Grant. It would be General Grant.
Wow. Why is that?
Well, the guy went from being an alleged drunk, general, a failed general in the Union Army, to essentially winning the Civil War, and he won it with grace, right? When Lee surrendered at Appomattox, General, keep your sword, keep your guns, keep your horses, go home. You're not vanquished. You're my fellow countrymen again. And then, he ended up being president of the United States and trying to keep that Reconstruction thing alive, that Lincoln. He's just a historical figure that I've just always respected. Yeah, General Ulysses S. Grant. Great dude.
Good. Well, listen, by the way, everyone loves your movie, by the way. Everybody's chatting in the room. Said Jeff loves it. Carlos loves it. I'm shocked I didn't see it. So, oh my God, I'm feeling bad.
No, it's a series. It's not a movie. It's a series.
No, it's a series. Man. I mean, it's a series. Definitely a series. Yeah. But Wiz, once again, like, I know you've been trading for a while. You've been a very successful trader. You've been doing this for what? I mean, almost 30 years now.
Yeah,
maybe you could just show really briefly, if you could share your screen a little bit.
Yeah.
Share everybody just really quick about what is your style? Let everybody know. And then so everybody can kind of get an idea, like what separates you from the other, fake gurus out there that think like they know how to trade options, because here we're talking about psychology, and I know we're on the same page, but really want to show that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Fausto. No, and folks, as you probably have noticed, Fausto and I don't lift ourselves up by bringing other people down. So if Fausto is one of the 500-pound heads in the space that I reach out to, and I love working with. He's a good squadron mate. We both want to shoot down MiGs at the end of the day, and we just set up the switchology in our cockpit.
Which, by the way, I'm coming.
Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah.
Probably
oh, absolutely, man. Well, so the jet's out in Colorado because it is just way too hot to fly that a fighter jet down in South Florida during the summer. So we're bringing it back in like November, something like that. So come down here in the winter, and I got you.
Good.
But yeah, so Fausto and I definitely strongly recommend you go listen to a bunch of people. Right? There's there's something to be said for doing as much intelligence gathering as you can. Go listen to a host of people. I've had a bunch of different mentors in my trading career. Tiger Woods has a swing coach. He's got a putting coach, right?
Yeah,
we were laughing about Aaron.
They even have coaches, and they're the greatest in the world.
Correct. Yeah, and we were laughing about Aaron Rodgers at the beginning, or not laughing, but I mean that guy's got a coach for all sorts of stuff. So definitely spread your stuff out there, so to speak. But yeah, so what do I do? And what am I looking at right now? Because Amazon, we got big tech coming this week, man. What is it, Meta today, or when's Meta's today, or Amazon? All I care about right now is Amazon, to be honest with you. So we have a service, Fausto, called Solo Amazon, where if you're a political science major from South Jersey, let me help you out, like me. We only trade Amazon. Now, if that hits you wrong, you've been bit in the neck by brokers, right? So brokers want you in as many names as physically possible. Why? It's called churn.
Churning.
Now, yeah, Fausto and I already put the Robin Hood thing to bed. If you don't know who the idiot is at the poker table, it's you. If you're not paying commissions, you're not the customer, right? You're the product. So we took care of the no commission brokers already, but for commission, I mean, we just talked about, the movie Wall Street, Bud Fox at the beginning of the movie. All right, boys, crank up the phones and get the little old ladies in tennis shoes out of the stock we got them in yesterday and into this one today. It's churn, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So for the longest time, they want you in as many names as possible, in, out, because that's how they make their money. And a lot of folks have bought into this, diversification thing, like, well, Whiz have to be in a bunch of different names. I'm going to be very direct and blunt because that's the way I was raised as a fighter pilot. Diversification is for stupid people. Now, let me be nicer, or quote a nicer old man, right? Let me get to this slide real quick. You ready for this? Where is he? I love this guy right here. I got to go through all my bio slides. Anyway, it is right there. So this guy said, diversification is a protection against ignorance. It makes very little sense for those who know what they're doing. I want that to sink in. If you know what you're doing, you don't have to diversify. So I tell people all the time, the only stock you should probably own, you must own for the rest of your life, is Amazon. It is diversified in and of itself. I call this stock the Death Star, folks. It literally prints money. Years ago, where was it? Amazon Web Services didn't even exist. Andy Jassy, the current CEO, and Jeff Bezos came up with AWS in a condo in like 2012 or something like that. Now AWS is like Microsoft. Amazon Prime is Netflix. They have a massive entertainment division. Amazon Pharma, unlimited medications for $5 a month. You name it, Amazon is in it, folks. And it's funny because look at this chart real quick. If you asked Fausto and I years ago in our younger age, if we looked at this chart, if we get take the word Amazon out and say, hey, would you get bullish on this stock? I'd be like, wow, look at the sales. It prints money. Okay, down here, free cash flow. That's not a, well, okay. Moving on, profit. Look down here. I look at Fausto and go, dude, let's short this stock. It barely makes any profit. And then I'd be broke. Why? Jeff Bezos, love him or hate him, says if I make $1 this quarter, I'm taking the dollar and buying an airplane, buying a competitor, putting a competitor out of business. He takes all the cash that he makes and puts it back into Amazon, folks. That's why, not to get too political, but that's why a lot of Democrats hate Amazon. Is like, we need to really tax this name. And he goes, well, I'm sorry, I'm broke. I don't make any money. That's because it's insane. I flew for FedEx for a little bit. Hated it. Couldn't stand flying at night, man. But I remember like 10 years ago, a buddy of mine from FedEx corporate, he's like, hey, you trade, right? Who's Jeff Bezos? I'm like, he runs Amazon. Why? He's like, well, a buddy of mine from GE Aircraft Leasing called me and said, Jeff Bezos just leased 5 airplanes. And I said, he's going to do it. What's he going to do? I said, he's going to put you out of business. As of today, FedEx and UPS carry less cargo than Amazon. And FedEx and UPS cargo actually fly on Amazon. So anyway, folks.
Big hit too, didn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. So real quick, Amazon earnings Thursday after market close. Let me just give you a quick trade. Something, because I love throwing stuff out here. If you're long-term bullish on a stock, Fausto and I will tell you, if you wanted to buy 100 shares of Amazon today, what would you be spending? 18 grand. You got 18 grand, knock yourself out. But real quick, I'm going to show you a tactic called synthetic stock. What's that mean? You don't get 2 things. And with Amazon, it doesn't matter. You don't get to vote. You're not a shareholder. And last time I checked, Jeff and his ex-wife probably have 1 or 2 more shares than you. And you don't get a dividend. And Jeff Bezos has also said a dividend, it's stupid. If I make money, why would I, quote, give it back to shareholders? I'm going to do something with it. So with synthetic stock, instead of spending 18 grand, check this out. Let's buy an at the money call, right? The stock's trading at 181 right now. Let's just buy a 180 call all the way out to December of 2026. That's as far out into the future as I can fly right now.
Was that like a leap?
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So buying one 180 call is $845, right? If you wanted to buy 100 shares, it's 18,000. Would you rather spend 18,000 or would you rather buy a single call? Remember, one call option equals what? 100 shares of stock. So I just saved you a lot of money. What could you also do? Why don't we sell an at the money put? You know that buying a put's bearish. You've heard that, right? I'm going to buy a put. I think it's going to go down. Well, somebody on the other side of that trade, if I sell the put, it's an insurance policy. I think it's going to go up. So look at that. When you buy a call and sell a put with the same strike, go look at the P&L diagram right here. That's synthetic stock. So instead of spending 18 grand, it's 157 bucks, dude. Now, real quick, if you were smart, you looked at the max potential loss rate here first. It's the same risk as if you bought the 100 shares right now. The risk between now and December of 2026 is Amazon goes to zero. If Amazon goes to zero between now and December 2026, you're not going to know it because the world ended in a nuclear exchange, right? Amazon ain't going to zero in the next couple of years. But just that's a quick example of how since that day in the ready room when my buddy's like, dude, let's go to lunch. Why are you buying stock? I'll teach you how to trade options. And I looked at him like a witch because options are creepy. This is the type of stuff that I learned. This is called synthetic stock. You are long the stock. If Amazon goes up 100 today, this position goes up 100 today, that type of thing. So with Amazon earnings coming out on Thursday after market close, if you wanted to be long-term bullish on Amazon out a couple of years, like Fausto said, leaps out into the future, why not spend a fraction of that price? And then what we do, Fausto, is we trade the front months. So if that's a leap all the way out a couple of years, why don't we do stuff now, right? I have some bullish double verticals and trades on through earnings as well. So in solo Amazon, you're doing kind of 2 things right now. You're long-term bullish on the stock out a couple years, and you're short-term whatever, fill in the blank. I've been short-term recently, bearish on Amazon. Look, I mean, we topped out close to 200 and I did some bearish trades and made some money. So I can trade the front month on Amazon, making some money to help pay off that long-term position too. So technically, I got 2 trades going on, and that's fine for me, right? And just trading Amazon, I got some trades in the back months and some trades in the front months. I'm good. And it's a solid stock. It ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So that's kind of my style and what we do here at Top Gun Options. You can go to our homepage and just go over here under trade groups to solo Amazon. Not a drinker anymore, especially after my psychedelic assisted therapy. But I used to say it's $97. It's a cheap bottle of wine. If you're a drinker, it's a cheap bottle of wine. So you can go.
People think it's a lot of money for a bottle of wine. Is that at the restaurant or is that at the store?
It depends on if you're in Napa or, Amarillo, Texas, right? So it's all relative. But yeah, you can try out, what we do here at Top Gun Options. Every Monday morning at 10 a.m. we do a solo Amazon brief, like I talked about. I'm in there for half an hour to an hour and placing some trades and talking about Intel and everything that's going on in the market. If you do an annual membership, it's if you get 2 months for free. So that's kind of what we do here at Top Gun Options, man, is treat things like combat. We trade with a plan, and man, we have a lot of fun doing it too, my brother. So I appreciate you having me and having the opportunity to talk to your team.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. By the way, there's the link. I posted up there. Everyone come and join us. And if you're watching this recording, listen, that promo is going to be up there forever. But Whiz, was just great having you on. Can't wait to have you back again and see what's going on and what you've been working on. But yeah, listen, there's only a couple of people out here that I feel like, I tell everybody, go out there and try a little bit of everyone's stuff,
Absolutely.
And then come back to us and then see why everybody's, see what you like and see if it works. But you got to learn before you can earn. But with that said, Matt, listen, enjoy the rest of your summer.
You got it, my brother.
Watching, we'll get this up and running. We'll make a couple of shorts for everybody. And Matt, say hello to your wife. Your wife's been great. Love chatting with her on emails and so on. And I'll see you in the upcoming show. Make sure you're doing your sit-ups, my brother, so you're getting ready to pull some G's in the fighter jet. How many G's do I pull? Well, dude, I'm old. It can pull up to 8, but maybe 4 to 5. So I can hit a couple of good roller coasters, but I don't know what the G's on that are. If you like roller coasters, you're going to do good. But like I told you before, eat a banana for breakfast because it's the only food that tastes the same coming up as it did going down. Oh, that's gross. All right. Thanks for being on, everyone. Thanks for listening. And I see you, Cap. Thanks for coming on. Thanks, brother. I'll see you. Bye-bye.